From Geppetto Studios in New Freedom, Pennsylvania, welcome to the Cosmic Geppetto Podcast, your home for inclusive, positive geek culture, where we talk about movies, comics, music, books, and whatever else we feel like. Please welcome your host.
He was a great-looking guy with parachute pants. Obviously, he's doing great in the 80s.
Oh, by the way, we had sex.
Brad Mendenhall.
Hey kids, it is episode 220 of the Cosmic Geppetto Podcast. Amy Kenerup, one of my favorite people ever, is back to talk about Wonder Woman 84. We get into an argument about whether Jason Momoa is pretty. Anywho, Katie has a question.
What are you most looking forward to in 2021? What are you least looking forward to?
What am I most looking forward to? I want to go to a concert. And you know what? It doesn't even matter what. I just want to go to a concert. I miss them so much. I also want to go to a movie. And again, it's not even like which particular movie. I mean, Black Widow looks fine. Because obviously, if you listen to more than 10 minutes of this show, you probably figured out I'm a Marvel fan. But I just want to go to the movies, and I want to go to concerts. I just want to go out because it's the last year has been really tough in that regard, and I'm a person who likes going out and enjoying an entertainment live. What am I least looking forward to? That's an interesting question. I don't know. I'm trying to think of something that I saw that I was like, that I saw and said, I can't wait to miss that. Maybe the 9th Fast and Furious movie, where it's not a film series that I was ever particularly interested in. I think I've only watched one or two of them start to finish, and they are patently ridiculous movies, which is fine. I don't begrudge anybody liking a ridiculous movie. And there's people that I like very much who are fans of that film series. Merwin and Jessa, they're Fast and Furious aficionados. But it feels stale, and I don't think the movie sitting on the shelves for a year is going to help with that. I'm also not looking forward to the Oscars. And don't get me wrong, we're going to talk about the Oscars when the time comes. Going back to Merwin and Jessa, they will be invited back to the show, and hopefully we'll be able to have them on and talk about it. But because there hasn't been like a lot of movies released in theaters, it's just going to feel a little hollow. It's like, okay, which Netflix movie or what movie that showed up on Apple Plus is going to get nominated for an Oscar, and who cares? I'm also not a big fan of, and I know that it was well received last year, but the host list Oscars, I'm not a big fan of that. I always think it's a nice opportunity to elevate a comedian or a performer, and not having that one person, I think, hurts. I would have loved to have seen John Mulaney host that, and I think there were rumors that he was being considered at one point. I don't know if this for this year or previous years. Find someone like that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to just being able to have a life outside of my house, and I'm not looking forward to Furious 9 or whatever the hell they're calling it. And I'm not looking forward to the Oscars. The reviews for Wonder Woman 1984 were good. Some people even like saying transcendently better than the first good. And then people watched it.
Yeah, so who was watching it in the first place that put out all those good reviews?
And I've heard people talk about what happens with reviewers sometimes is they see so many movies, action movie, comedy, whatever, doesn't work for them because they just it doesn't move the needle. But if you watch like a normal amount of movies per year, you may come away from something different. When normal people are watching Wonder Woman 84, something isn't connecting for them. And I'm trying to figure out what that is, because even the people who like it, it's a muted liking it. Like I've seen a couple people who've been really over the top happy about it, but it's few and far between.
I've seen a couple of people that liked it. I know one of my friends, she said that she had really liked it, but it's mostly because she has a young daughter and she loves the representation and all of that for her. So maybe she wasn't being as critical as some of us were.
Yeah, and that's fair. It's fair and it's understandable. It's like, because boy, there are a lot of really terrible movies for young female moviegoers. Don't let them watch Catwoman.
Don't let anyone watch Catwoman. So yeah, the movie had quite a few issues, in my opinion. The first thing I noticed was the opening sequence was great, but I fail to see what it had to do with the rest of the movie at all.
They tried to tie it together at the end. It's like, you can't, what was the phrase? It's like, you can't become a hero or whatever through a lie, which makes sense because part of Wonder Woman's whole thing is she has a lasso of truth, but it was really pretty tenuous. Let the listeners know, what was your thought on the movie? Like, what would you give the movie on a scale of 1 to 10?
I think I said a 5 with a question mark because I didn't hate it. It was entertaining. There were a lot of things that I found confusing or just dumb, honestly. Which, I'm not going to see a comic book movie expecting Shakespeare, but I really did like the first one, and I was hoping for at least something of similar quality, and I don't think this was.
How did you like the first one?
I really liked it. I had a great time at it. I thought it was, again, really entertaining, had some substance. I mean, it's been a really long time since I watched it, but I mean, I know it had some issues, but I feel like I thought it was very, very good.
And I think I'm with you. I think I'm would give a 5, maybe a 6 to the second one. What I think it really missed from the first one, and I didn't love the first one, but what it had was it had that amazing, they call it the no man's land scene, where she basically takes on the entire German army, charging at them with all the guns, all the bullets flying by and deflecting them, and just the music was incredible, and the intensity, and Gal Gadot is a good actress.
Yes.
You almost don't want to believe that someone as great looking as she is can be a good actress.
I agree.
It's just sort of unfair. Okay, she's tall, beautiful, athletic. Oh, by the way, also a good actress. It's like, that doesn't seem fair at all.
Right. Leave some talent over for the rest of us.
On top of this, like, oh, by the way, let's give her a sexy accent while we're at it.
Right.
And then after the no man's land, then the great scene where she's just tearing through the small town, destroying the German army. As the music was fantastic and perfect. There was nothing comparable to that in the second movie, aside from, the opening sequence with young Diana was great, but there was no real stakes to it.
No, not at all. I agree with you. The villain in the second one was Pedro Pascal is great. Don't get me wrong. But I found the premise, the whole wish thing, incredibly lame. I feel like it's been done in a lot of things. I mean, they kept referencing the monkey's paw. Good example. That's where it's been done. And there were a lot of things they kind of didn't explain about how all of that worked. And one of the things that they were very inconsistent about was later on, he kept saying that people had to actually say their wishes out loud. Diana never did.
No, you're right. She said, I know what I would wish for. Then there was the light breeze.
Yeah.
Boy, you got to hold that internal logic. If you're going to...
Yeah, logic in air quotes.
My view has always been, you can have the most ridiculous concepts in a movie, and it's fine. But damn it, you got to be consistent.
Yes, agreed.
If you got to say the wish, that's stupid. But... And also just the idea that 6 billion people all are having their wishes. First off, okay, how many people are going to want to be the king of America? Or how many people are going to want to be the richest man alive? That logic doesn't work very well.
Right.
And somebody on Facebook I saw says, not one person asked for world peace?
That's an excellent point. That's one thing I did not think of. Or at least more wishes. Come on.
And I get that if you do that, if you have a bunch of people being altruistic, if you have too many priests, or the Pope or whatever it would be, then it's sort of, you can't have too many kumbaya moments. The logic doesn't hold up too well, which is okay, I guess, as long as you have really engaging action or other things, which there wasn't. I remember watching the movie and realizing that aside from the really good opening scene with young Diana, and then a little bit of a very Superman 1-esque action scene where Diana's sort of in the shadows and saving the day in a lot of fun ways, which was fine. Aside from that, it takes an hour before you have the first real action scene. And then it was fine, but I was like, what are we watching here?
So many issues. So, okay, the logic at the end, the guy retracted his wish, which then negated everybody else's?
They're sort of implying that, you saw a lot of people rescinding theirs, but yeah, the logic is it was very unclear.
Yeah, because that made a big thing of Barbara not wanting to rescind hers, and then they showed her looking back like she did before, but I didn't know if that meant that she just lost the additional abilities she'd gotten from his wish payments. I don't know what you'd call that, and she still had the rest of it, or if everybody just lost everything they got from the wishes because he rescinded his. And then since he rescinded his, does that mean the stone recreated itself on his desk?
There should have been that moment where you see the stone reform. And I wonder if this is something that could be, there might be a deleted scene of the stone reforming and Diana returning to Themyscira with the stone because it needs to be hidden somewhere. Although I think that would cause a little bit of continuity issues because as of Justice League, it was sort of implied that she hadn't returned to the island yet. And I think that hurt the movie. You have a really strong supporting cast with the Amazons, and you don't get to see them with Diana.
Right, not with adult Diana. The beginning was fantastic with them.
They've written themselves into some corners. And first off, aside from the fact that in the first movie, you had once you leave, you can't return. And then because it's taking place in 1984, you have to be very careful how much people see Diana because it was sort of implied in Batman v Superman and Justice League that she has been out of action. It's a problem with setting things in the past. It's a problem of having this bigger picture stuff. And then what's frustrating is it's not like there's going to be Justice League 2.
Right.
They're not doing what Marvel does where there's 2-3 movies a year. It looks like there's going to be a Flash movie. There's going to be another Aquaman because the last one made money. Henry Cavill's apparently somehow going to be involved in more movies, but it's nothing for certain that he's going to be Superman again. I mean, that there's going to be a Superman movie. They don't want to completely blow up the other movies and just say, forget about those other things. We're just going to do what we want to do. But then you're beholden to lesser films that may not be made. It's weird. Apparently they've announced there's going to be a third Wonder Woman movie with Gal Gadot. Thank God, because I would hate to see them replace her. And Patty Jenkins directing. I hope they bring it up to the present.
That would make sense that they would. I was sort of hoping that they would play around a little bit more with the fun of the 80s, but I guess I didn't really have time.
How did you feel about the use of the 80s? They definitely had some fun with the fashion, but man, how can you have a movie set in the 80s and not have Safety Dance?
Right, or most of the music from, I don't remember noticing a lot of the 80s music being used in it. I guess there was the party scene and there was some there, but yeah, I didn't think they picked, a lot of the best of the 80s things to include. But maybe I guess it's been done in a lot of other movies. Maybe they just didn't want to be that obvious.
It's tough. If you're going to use that decade, like, I don't know if you could do the same thing in the 90s. Honestly, when they did Captain Marvel, because that was set in the 90s, the fashion isn't quite as extreme. I mean, the 80s, boy, you look at that members only jacket or this parachute pants or that fanny pack, it's like, yeah, I know what we're doing.
Yep. Fluorescent colors. Some of the outfits they put Chris Pine in.
The 90s doesn't have that, but the 90s does have very specific music, and they used it a little bit in Captain Marvel specifically. They got a lot of use out of Nirvana.
Right.
But they almost sort of did the opposite, where they got the fashion right, but they didn't get the music right. As opposed to Captain Marvel, where they got the music kind of right. Not perfect, but they got it kind of right, but it's not a distinct enough fashion era to really lean into. Aside from, it's like, oh, there's a blockbuster video. It's like, oh, yeah, that was popular then.
Yeah, I agree.
The thing they were obviously trying to present as the big action set piece in the middle was when she was chasing the convoy.
Maybe I was already a bit befuddled by the rest of the movie, but I found it a little bit hard to follow which car she was on and where he was and where... Yeah, I got very confused as to where everyone was. But I thought it was a pretty good action sequence. In general, maybe it was just me. I just had a little bit of trouble following it.
Very true. It's tough because all the trucks look the same.
Yes.
Also, they were doing the plot lines. That's when she's starting to lose her powers. So much of it was, hey, why can't I push things as well as I can normally? You would love to have that scene, and they've had them in other movies, like in Justice League, where they're firing machine guns, and she's so fast and superhuman that she can block every bullet. So then it almost takes a little bit of the fun out of it, where she's getting shot, and then needing to get rescued by Steve Trevor. Chris Pine's great, but I never want to see her getting rescued by him.
Exactly. And I feel that was another weakness of this movie, was it really seemed mostly about the guys. I mean, even though you've got Wonder Woman and you've got Barbara, they were kind of overshadowed by all the men.
And again, it's no offense. It's nothing against Chris Pine. Chris Pine, I read an article where he's the only Chris that matters, apparently, to some people.
Right.
And even the character makes sense. But I think he needs to be rescued by her. Or he needs to be the one where she's doing the heavy lifting. She's saving the day, and she's like, by the way, go and, like, her saying is like, I need you to do X, Y, Z to back me up or to help me out because I can't be in two places at once.
Right. Or he can help her do some of the planning or coming up with the...
Or he's a pilot. It's like, I need a pilot for this one thing. Anything but she's getting shot at and he like grabs a tray and blocks her so she doesn't get hurt. It sort of undercuts her a bit.
Absolutely.
Also, I have a real problem with the idea of Steve Trevor dies in the 1910s. We're supposed to believe that in the 70-some years between that, she's still pining for him. And he basically shows up again and in a lot of ways gives him permission. It's like, you should date again now.
No kidding. I mean, okay, he was like literally the first male she had ever seen. So, okay, it makes sense that she would be intrigued by the first male she had ever seen. But in all that time since then, she's seen a lot more. You'd think she would have been like, oh, look, there's others. And she knew him for what, like 2 weeks? Maybe? 2 weeks does not turn into 70 plus years of pining. It just, no. And you would think she would have had some sort of life. I mean, I guess being kind of, non-aging would make it tricky to make friends and keep them. But you would think she would have met some people and had a friend or two, maybe, in all that time.
Even showed her in the pictures. It showed her pictures of her, of the rest of the supporting players from the first movie, the secretary, the other soldiers, her with them as they got older. So it wasn't even like she was a recluse. It wasn't like she just disappeared. No one ever saw her again. It's like, no, she had friends. She had a social life. And then even when she meets Minerva, the cheetah, within 4 hours of meeting her, they're having this wonderful, lively, fun, laugh-filled dinner. So that's the first person in 70 years that she becomes friends with and engages with. I don't buy that.
I did not either at all. It made so little sense.
Don't get me wrong. I want to be Kristen Wiig's friend too.
Oh, doesn't everyone? She seems amazing.
How did you like Kristen Wiig as Cheetah? The take on the character, and it was fun because Kristen Wiig plays the sort of insecure, a little dippy chattermouth, using that, but then she's also gorgeous.
Yes.
And it's easy to forget that she's gorgeous. They glammed her up, and that was fun. It was fun to see her sexy and in control because that's not really something that she that she doesn't use that in her bag of tricks too often.
True. And I really like her a lot. And I think she did a really good job with what she had to work with. The only comment I made about it, and this is perhaps me being a little bit catty, it was like, okay, she looks amazing, but with Gal Gadot around, no one's going to look at her twice.
No. That's, you don't want to be Gal Gadot's best friend.
No.
And quite frankly, if you are, don't bother.
Exactly.
Hey, are you going to put on some makeup, do your hair? It's like, no, I'm hanging out with Gal. It's like, no, okay. So just curlers and your night mask on? He's like, yeah, what's the point?
Exactly. Just going to wear my bathrobe, bunny slippers.
One friend commented, Gal Gadot could make an Ice Cube go pansexual.
Excellent way to put it, yes. Some other things about the movie that made me nuts, partly with Kristen Wiig's character, the thing that she lost was her humanity. That's what was most important to her. That's what she cared the most about. But then she lost it and didn't give a flying fig. She just was like, nope, I'm good with it. I'd much rather have the beauty and power. So I guess she didn't care all that much about it.
I think it could have been more compelling if, okay, you give up the thing that was most important to you. I don't think the Minerva character thought that was the most important thing, her humanity or her humor. It's her intelligence. So I think it could have been much more interesting where she becomes the cheetah, she becomes this apex predator, losing her intelligence, becoming more savage. And I think that could have been much more interesting.
I agree. That would have been. And in some ways, I think she did, but it wasn't specifically referred to in the movie, because she got all that rage and it just sort of, she didn't care about knowledge anymore, basically. And what was the thing, why on earth did Pedro Pascal's character start losing his health?
And they were really presenting it as a big deal, and he was trying to game around it, but it didn't factor into the end of the movie.
No, not really. I mean, he did take away others' life essences, but I guess if it's that many people and he's just taking a little bit from each one, it didn't really take that much from them. I don't know. It didn't make sense to me. The stone, which he was supposed to be the stone didn't lose anything.
It felt like they had two ideas of what was happening to him. One is he's losing his health, and the second he's losing his humanity and his child. And because they half-assed both of them, neither really connected.
Right. He did make a wish to become the stone, so I guess he would have had to have something taken away from him.
Like, if they would have done one or the other, if they really gone in where you believe that he wants to impress his child, instead it looked like he didn't give a crap about his kid. Which
most of the movie, that's what it looked like, and then at the end, when he suddenly had the revelation that, oh no, my child is in danger, all the rest of this is pointless, that didn't fly with me. I was like, no. All of a sudden, he cares?
And that could have been the thing where you give up the thing that means the most. And it's like, you haven't even thought of your son. You've lost the love you have for your child. Or reverse it, where the kid doesn't, like the son doesn't give a crap about him. It's like, the most important thing, you lost the love of your child. That could be really compelling.
I think I understand now, actually. He was losing... Okay, so Pedro Pascal's character was losing his health. That's what he gave up. The kid was losing his father, because he made a wish too.
Yeah.
But it took me this long to figure it out, so it clearly wasn't clear enough when watching the movie.
It's one of those where I would love to see some rough drafts of this movie, because I have a feeling...
I think we did.
Yeah. because I bet there's a thing where they had some solid ideas. There's probably one copy of the script where he is obsessed with impressing his son and being a good father and being worthy of his son, and that's where it goes wrong. And then there's another where there's not even a kid in the movie, and they just took stuff from each of that, and they needed one more pass through the script to solidify it, because it just feels like draft 3 when there should have been 5 drafts.
At least, for sure. And should we even talk about the body snatcher issue that nobody seemed to care about in the movie?
Oh God, it's so funny where the moral implications that she wishes for Steve Trevor to come back, he comes back in someone else's body, and this is not a comatose man who has been a vegetable for the last 20 years and is functionally brain dead. It's like, no, it's a good-looking guy with a life.
Exactly. I mean, they said he was an engineer or something, right? So he had a career of some kind. He just disappeared for 7 days or however long it was. Nobody missed him. Nobody was looking for him. I mean, did he lose his job? And honestly, they didn't know anything about this guy. Not to be vulgar, but he could have had all kinds of venereal disease. And she's just like, nope, he's my guy. He's the guy. All I can see is my guy. It doesn't matter where he's been.
Oh, could have had a girlfriend, wife, fiance, boyfriend. We don't know.
Exactly. Oh, so many issues. And the fact that neither one of these characters, who are supposed to be fairly altruistic, gave a crap. This person that they are completely using and then putting back without any explanation.
Folks, if you haven't seen the movie, sorry, but you just don't understand. They never even thought about the fact that this poor bastard must have had a life. He was a great-looking guy with parachute pants. Obviously, he's doing great in the 80s.
Right. And it was also, I mean, okay, this stone has... I read an article that was saying the stone has basically godlike powers. It didn't need to do that. It could have figured out a way to make him a body.
Right.
It didn't need to steal somebody else's. That made no sense at all to me. Ridiculous.
Really ridiculous. And she's supposed to be one of the paragons of virtue in comics. This isn't the Punisher. This isn't Batman, who's a morally great character. She is Captain America. She is Superman. She is Spider-Man without the insecurity. She's a character who does the right thing.
Supposedly. But this is no big deal.
Yeah. And by the way, that actor, boy, you gotta feel bad for him. It's like, and he doesn't even get a name. His name in the movie is Handsome Man, which on one hand, it's gotta make you feel kinda good.
Yeah, and he did have some lines.
He got some lines. Gosh, what's the actor's name? Handsome Man.
I believe it's also Chris. Chris something.
Yeah, Chris with a K.
Yes.
Christopher, good lord, it's spelled Kristoffer. Holaha. I'm not making fun of this guy's name. When you're that good looking, you can spell your name however you want.
That is very true. But maybe that's the whole reason he didn't get to play the character for the whole movie. They didn't give him a name because his name was too complicated. Oh my goodness, that poor guy. What the heck? Yeah, so many questions. And then she sees him at the end, and she's got to be thinking, oh, by the way, we had sex. You might be thinking you want to take me out sometime. You already have.
All right. They knock on your doors like, Amy, we heard you on the Cosmic Geppetto podcast. You got the right ideas. We want you on as a producer for Wonder Woman 3 so we can avoid the things that went wrong and accentuate the things that went right. What is something you would say, okay, this you got this right, lean into this, and what's something you say you can't do this anymore?
Less focus on love interests, for sure. More leaning into the Greek mythology history, because they did bring some of that into it, regardless that, she got the golden armor at the end and really had no time to go back and get it, but did anyway. I'm no expert. It's kind of like, I know what I like when I see it. I'm not the ideal person, I guess, but it was just kind of a mess. I shouldn't have this many burning questions after after the movie is over. I shouldn't have been so confused.
The movie should be it would help if it was a little more straightforward. For me, one thing is they haven't done yet is there is a Wonder Girl. There is a teenage sidekick for Diana.
Oh.
Played by, of all people in the original TV show, Deborah Winger.
Really?
Yeah. Is a pretty popular character in the comics. What's her name? Donna Troy, I want to say, who has been Wonder Woman on occasion, because that's the thing that happens in comics, where the sidekick character becomes takes over the mantle for a period of time. In the comics, Robin has been Batman, Kid Flash has been Flash, Speedy has become the Green Arrow. It happens. I don't really need that, but I think one thing we haven't seen from Diana yet is she's been very much a loner character, and having a young Amazon who's trying to find her way and having Diana take her under the wing, I think it created an interesting dynamic. One thing that sidekicks work well is, like I say, I didn't like Wonder Woman needing to be rescued. Give her somebody with similar powers who isn't quite as tough for her to show the ropes to, and also gives her someone to protect and rescue, so you don't have that.
I agree. And it also gives her interpersonal relationships to give some more meaning and depth to her life and to her character without it being a love interest that is the entirety of her character, basically. I mean, seriously, after 70 years, that's what she wanted. That was her greatest wish.
That's her greatest wish, and this is somebody who's fighting for world peace and fighting for the greater good. No, that guy that I dated for a couple of weeks, I get he's Chris Pine, and Chris Pine's the only Chris that matters, but I just think of Patton Oswalt, the comedian Patton Oswalt, lost his wife. She passed away. Patton Oswalt spoke eloquently and passionately with great affection and great heartbreak about the loss of his wife. And about a year later, he remarried. I'm not taking a shot at that because you can't judge the timetable and the time it takes for them to process their grief. But this is somebody who had children with and who he was very impressed by and obviously admired as well as loved. And he was sharing a life with her. But people do move on. It's something that I've always had a problem with that happens a lot of time in entertainment where nothing seems to happen emotionally for characters in between movies or seasons of TV or whatever. So you'll have the character on a TV show who hasn't moved on from the girl he dated in high school, and I hate that crap.
Yeah, I could understand that. I mean, to some extent, I understand why there's not a significant amount of development during the break because, as an audience, we kind of want to see some of that. So if there was too much change while they were gone, we'd be like, hey, what happened? When we left off, they were in a different place, and now they're here? What? But yeah, I totally get what you're saying. I mean, she knew him for like 2 weeks. Drives me crazy.
There's a way to do it right. You can't have people so completely that they're different human beings where it doesn't make sense or there's no connective thing. But if you do it just right where, okay, I have moved on, I have done other things, but showing how you got, the character got from point A to point B in drips and drabs can be interesting.
Yes.
But again, we're not talking about how she went away for summer vacation and still hasn't gotten over it. It's 70 years.
Exactly. So many issues. That was a big problem for me. I didn't have a huge issue with there being the love story in the first movie. I know that was a sticking point for some people that they thought it was unnecessary. I thought it was kind of sweet, and it gave a little bit more of stakes when he sacrificed himself for everybody. But move on. Again, literally the first man she ever saw.
One of the things that they've done in the comics is, for a period of time, Wonder Woman and Superman were an item. Superman, of course, the whole thing is Superman eventually ends up with Lois Lane. That's his person. You can have a thing where it's like, okay, but let's do a 2-3 year arc in the comics where the two most powerful people on the universe are dating, and what does that look like? And also it could be interesting because these two people have, in some ways, they're the only people that can understand each other.
Right.
So that could be cool. But you can't have that because in the DC universe, Superman's pretty much already married, and also you don't know how much more Henry Cavill is going to be in that.
Right.
I don't know. Are you going to bring a third character in? And it's tough because you already had 2 movies where she's so into Chris Pine. Chris Pine's a really charismatic actor. Who are you going to bring in that's going to not feel false?
I guess that makes sense. They don't have to bring in anyone that's a love interest at all. honestly, I thought the dinner that she had with Kristen Wiig's character in this movie was quite nice. That was a nice relationship that was starting. I mean, obviously it was kind of doomed because of the plot of the movie, but I thought it was a lovely friendship moment. And I think it'd be nice to have just someone that was, that she had a nice connection with.
I guess theoretically you could have Kristen Wiig back in the next movie, and they could go a couple different directions where they fought. There definitely could be animosity, but there could still be the friendship that was there at the beginning, and that could be interesting. Or just something as simple as Diana needs help in a field of science that Minerva is an expert on, and there's still tension there, but that could be interesting.
You'd have to keep it in the same era, though.
Yeah, you'd have to be within the same era within 5 years, give or take. Because I don't want to see Kristen Wiig age 30 years for the next movie. That would stink.
It wasn't really clear, like we were talking about earlier, whether she lost all of her powers or not. So it could be possible that if she still had some of them, then maybe she would also not age. They could make that a thing. If they could bring Chris Pine's character back from the dead, they can make that a thing.
Then you'd have Kristen Wiig inhabiting someone else's body, and it's like, oh god, again?
No, but all I see is Kristen Wiig. No, that's so dumb. Just the whole wish thing was thin.
One thing they gotta get away from. They can't have Chris Pine. I love Chris Pine. I really do. He can't be in the next Wonder Woman movie.
Mm-mm.
The only thing you could theoretically go to is some sort of ghostly apparition to encourage is like, yeah, I believe in you, Diana, and walk into the light. I guess you could do that. I don't think it'd be great, but that's the only thing you can do. Call up the Marvel guys, find a role for him there. He'd be a fine, I don't know, fine Captain Britain. Have him do a fake accent. Yeah, that'd be terrible.
Yeah, I just don't see that happening. But yeah, but something. There has to be something. But yeah, not in another Wonder Woman movie, please. We're done with his character. We're done.
Honestly, it was a little bit of a reach having him in there.
It was a lot of a reach.
When they first said Chris Pine, I thought it was going to be a flashback or something, and then they show him with the fanny pack. I was like, what?
Yeah, all I could think of is maybe it was a descendant that happened to look just like him, which I guess could have worked, but no, that's not what they did, and it was so much lamer than anything I imagined.
It probably would have been worse if it would have been his own grandson or great-grandson. That would have been pretty terrible. They did that in the infamous 90s Captain America movie with Matt Salinger as Cap, where he was in love with Peggy, and then he gets frozen and he gets de-thawed, and there Peggy's old, and there's Peggy's daughter played by the same actress. It was like, you're not gonna shtup your old girlfriend's daughter, right? You've only been awake for like a week or two, so it's pretty fresh memory that she's your girlfriend. That's your girlfriend's daughter. She looks exactly the same. This is terrible. That
being said, though, I think I still would have preferred that to what we got, because that was just stupid.
It was dumb. That's dumb over creepy.
Okay, but you've got the creepiness of sleeping with your paramour's grandchild, and then you've got the creepiness of sleeping with some random dude that happens to have your love interest's mind, because that's also creepy.
Somebody's written some really filthy fan fiction about what happened the night they had together.
I'm sure it's already out there. I am not going to look for that.
Well, if you don't look for it, I'm going to write it and I'm going to send it to you.
But see, you at least would make it funny. I know you.
All right, so it wasn't bad. This was not a bad movie. Some people, and there's always this, have said is like, oh, this is the worst DC movie. It's like there was freaking Batman and Robin. There was Catwoman.
Well, Catwoman, yeah. Yeah. I was one of the few people that actually enjoyed Batman and Robin.
Heck, this wasn't as bad as Batman and Superman.
Fair.
And how did you like Justice League?
Honestly, I didn't see it. I didn't see that. I didn't see Batman v Superman. I don't think I saw either of them. Because by the time I got around to it, I'd already heard they were not worth it. So I just never watched them.
I've been a little bit of a defender of Justice League. I thought they got some things right. They keep talking about the Snyder Cut and how it's going to remove a lot of the stuff. And I think they're going to remove some of the stuff that did work. Snyder did a lot of stuff wrong. The expectation that he's somehow going to get control back and it'll be a better movie because of him is like, have we not paid attention to what he's done with the Superman and with Superman v Batman?
And it could potentially be more consistent, maybe?
Consistently bad, I think you can make an argument is worse than consistently sometimes bad, sometimes good.
Very fair.
And I'm sounding like a Joss Whedon apologist. It definitely was a very uneven tone, and bringing Whedon in partway through a movie is no way to bring Joss Whedon in. Joss Whedon is at his best when you give him the reins early on because he's a better writer than he is a director. So them having him try to course correct a practically finished movie is not a great idea.
No, because he's not going to just finish what was on its way to being made. He's going to put his own spin on it.
I will say Wonder Woman 1984, I didn't think was as good as Wonder Woman. I thought it was better than anything involving Batman and Superman in this new DC universe. I would say it's pretty much on par with the Aquaman, which was bloated, but kind of fun.
I did see Aquaman. I think I'd have to say I had many fewer issues with Aquaman. Maybe I was just too blinded by Jason Momoa to notice them. I came away with so many things where I was like, wait, what? Huh? Seriously?
It turns out you can fix a lot of problems by just having Jason Momoa with his shirt off. A lot.
Oh, sure. He makes everything better.
There was a funny conversation I had where a woman I worked with said how she preferred Jason Momoa to some other actor. I forget who. Yeah, I just don't like pretty boys. It's like, you don't think Jason Momoa is pretty? This is how pretty Jason Momoa is. He does stuff to ugly himself up. He's going to have the long, scraggly hair and all the crazy tattoos, and he's going to wear goofy outfits and stuff. He can get away with all of that because he is so freaking pretty.
I kind of have to agree more with your coworker, though, because if you look at his face, just his face, it's really not all that great.
Jason Momoa was on Baywatch. Have you ever seen the Jason Momoa Baywatch pictures?
No. I could look them up.
I'm going to send it to you right now.
Okay.
All right. Opening it up. This is great audio. Sending the picture now. That is Jason Momoa without the hair. That's a pretty young man.
There's still something about his forehead and eyes.
There's a little asymmetry to his eyes, yes.
Yeah, there's a bit of a caveman thing.
A very pretty caveman. If he is in your office.
If he's in my office, I'm not getting any work done.
Very little work is done with Baywatch area Jason Momoa, which, by the way, is just an insane thing to say.
It is.
It's the same thing that Johnny Depp used to do, where Johnny Depp was so great looking. 20-something, 30-something Johnny Depp was so great looking, so then he would just throw on 80 scarves and a stupid hat, and it didn't freaking matter because it was still Johnny Depp.
Yep.
And Jared Leto's the same thing, and a lot of these really, really great-looking, pretty men, it's like they do the weird stuff to ugly up because they can get away with it. I can't get away with that. If I'm trying to not look like a schlubby, dad bod, gray-haired old man, it's like, well, better dress real nice and real conservative and make sure that suit fits good and there's going to be no scarves anywhere near me and no foppish hats because I'm going to look in the mirror, I'm going to want to kick my own ass.
I don't know. You think you could take yourself?
It would be a fight. It'd be a fight. But quite frankly, the way my cardio is anymore, it would just be a draw because I'd be on the ground panting.
Oh, fair enough.
There's a thing that happens in the winter, and especially during pandemic, during the winter, where you eat a little too much, and if I'm working from home too many days in a row, and then I have lunch with the kids, and then dinner with the kids, and I eat 3 meals that are way too heavy, and you put on a little weight, and then I go into the office. During my day job, I'm on like the 3rd floor, and I take the steps because I never take the elevator, and I get to the 3rd floor, and God help me if I have like my backpack on with my computer. I was like, I'm like Bill Murray and the rest of the Ghostbusters in that scene where they're trying to go up the building. It's like,
Right.
oh, what floor are we on? Let me know when we get to the top. I'm going to throw up. That's how I feel. I was
I hear you. I actually went to the gym this morning, and after having been off for 3 days and basically sitting inside just eating for 3 days on the couch, and I almost died this morning. It was like, no.
I've run half marathons.
Damn.
And I've participated in relays. I've been able to run up to 13 miles, and I ain't setting no land speed records, but I've been able to do it. And now I'm pretty sure I would get tired driving 13 miles. Be part ways like, listen, I changed the channel on the radio way too many times. I'm feeling winded.
Just saying the words half marathon, I'm out.
Amy, as always, it's amazing talking with you. Plug your pluggables. Have you been able to play out at all?
I have not seen my bandmates since January. I can't remember the last time I was on the show, but the last time we played out was last December. Quickly after that, our keyboard player quit.
Oh.
And we have not had a chance to replace him because can't really audition anybody in a pandemic. So no playing out, no rehearsals, none of that.
But you're still in the band. It's just the band hasn't been able to do anything. They haven't disbanded.
We have not disbanded, no. Occasionally someone reaches out and says, hey, we still exist. And we're like, yep, hi.
Give the website for the group so people can follow, because theoretically, the end's got to be a little bit in sight for the global bastard.
Gosh, I hope so. My husband is getting his first vaccine shot, got his first vaccine shot today.
Oh, wow.
Because he's a frontline worker.
That's excellent. That's fantastic.
I won't get mine until probably a year from now. But he's got his first one, so one of us is set.
Well, have you just considered draining his blood a little bit at night? That's got to work, right? Go full Dr. Acula?
There you go. I can do that, sure. Yikes. Nah, he needs every bit of it.
So vaccines aren't sexually transmitted is what you're telling me?
They should be, right?
I don't know how medical science works at all.
Me either. I mean, as far as I know, they should be.
Why is it only the bad stuff?
Right, a virus is so easily transmittable, but, a vaccine isn't? Come on! It's not fair. Darn you, 2020.
What's the website for your band?
It's midnightdrive-ohio.com.
Recommend everyone check that out. Amy, it's always amazing having you on. We're going to have you back soon.
I hope so. It's been great to talk to you.
That wraps episode 220. Big thanks to Amy Kenerup. Always a joy when she joins the fun. She is so freaking cool. Speaking of cool, also big thanks to Katie May. She is a purple-haired badass, and I think the world of her. Next time on the Cosmic Geppetto podcast, Dr. J. Andrew DeMann knows an awful lot about Chris Claremont's iconic run on the Uncanny X-Men. Yeah, it's gonna get geeky, even for me. Until next time, in the words of Jarf Hardin,
see you in the funny pages.
Subscribe to the Cosmic Geppetto podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever quality podcasts can be found. Rate and review us while there. Follow us on Twitter at Cosmic Gpod, and we will follow you back. Unless you're a jerk. We don't follow jerks. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/Cosmic Geppetto. We love hearing your ideas for upcoming episodes. Email us at cosmicgeppetto@comcast.net.
Not to be vulgar, but he could have had all kinds of venereal disease.